Three, two, one.
What is up, y'all? Welcome back to the Vol Talk podcast. We're glad you're with us. We're glad that you didn't suffer a heart attack, going to cardiac arrest, almost losing to Florida. We're here. We're on the other side of Florida week, Stan, and we won.
Yeah.
And so
Yay. We won.
the,
Let's go.
we're
Everything's
happy about
fine. We're not
we're
tanking
happy.
in the AP poll or anything. It's fine.
Yeah, we're happy about beating Florida, but man, we got some stuff to get into. We've got some stuff to get into. But hey, y'all, listen, we appreciate you joining us. Please like, comment, and subscribe. The whole nine. Y'all know that deal. Please share it with your friends. Share the pod with your friends. We're going to be doing a few things soon to up the ante with our production. So just know that the production quality will be going up soon. That is, unless the team crashes and burns, and Austin and I fall into a deep dark depression and can't do
Yeah.
the pod anymore.
Yeah. If had we lost to Florida, the question would I do the podcast? Blake definitely wouldn't have done the podcast. It would have either had to been a monologue or I would have had to get someone on here or something. But Blake would have been done with Vol Talk had we lost to Florida. But thank God we beat them. I mean, listen, I was happy after we won the game. I mean, we went into overtime, and I kind of had a feeling once we got into overtime we were going to win. But dude, when they hit the 3rd and 18 play to push it into overtime, I'll be honest, and I probably shouldn't say this. I wanted to not be here anymore. I was literally like, "You have got to be kidding me!" I mean, it was a very familiar feeling. Obviously, as Vol fans,
Hmm.
very familiar, especially in this game in particular with Florida. Uh, but I wasn't doing great. I wasn't doing great when they hit 3rd and 18 after our defense had played one of the best games I'd seen out of a defense. Frankly, I mean, it wasn't like it wasn't complete domination, but the fact that some of the stops they made throughout the game, some of the plays they made throughout the game, it was fantastic. Offense, whole nother story. Whole nother. We got problems on offense, folks.
We got things to talk about with the offense. I think you and the rest of All Nation, myself included, were not doing too hot in those moments, those waning moments of regulation. Man, you're right. It was so reminiscent of the Derek Dooley years and the Butch Jones years, where it's like, we're better than this. Well, I mean, shoot, you know. I mean, there were several years in the Butch Jones years where we were better than Florida, and we still found a way to lose. And so I'm glad that we found a way to win. Don't get me wrong, I'm thankful for that, but it was just like you said, it felt so reminiscent of the past when it's like, man, we coming into this season, and I think still, even now, on paper, especially at home, we should absolutely trash Florida, but for some reason we couldn't.
And that's
And
and
I
that's
think
just not your feeling, dude. That was Vegas thought the same thing, and I say all the time that when a line is set for a football game, there's no bias that goes into it. This isn't set by Tennessee fans. This isn't set by people on Twitter. This is set by people that set lines to make money. And when they put Florida as 14 to 16 point favorites, depending on where you're looking, they expected it to be a dominating performance by us, and it was anything but that, especially on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, you could argue that the defense was absolutely dominant. The offense was not. The complete opposite. It's horrendous right now. So that's a problem.
it's a problem, and unfortunately, it answers a lot of the questions that we had coming into the game last week in the Florida preview, right? We talked about, hey, what's the culture going to be? What are we going to look like coming into this game after you lose a tough game on the road to Arkansas? And now those questions are just dragging on, and it's like, man, I don't, I'm starting to worry that it's fallen on the wrong side of those questions, right? It's like, especially as you noted with the offense, and especially when you've got a, a, a big team coming into town. You got a Crimson team coming into town, and that's a big deal. And you got to have the culture right for that. And we won't get into that because that's going to come on Thursday for the preview episode. But man, at the end of the day, do you think it's entirely on the offense? Do you think that
Oh yeah,
there is a
yesterday's game.
culture issue or?
No, yesterday's game is on the offense. I mean, if you sat there and watched the game throughout, and you would see that the defense was put in horrible positions all game long and somehow kept coming through. I mean, there was a drive they gave up. Florida got to the 1 yard line, and James Pierce, who has absolutely became what we thought he was going to be to start the season, forced a fumble on the 1 yard line, dude. Absolutely incredible. That James Pierce alone was responsible for 10 points off the board. I mean, Florida was in field goal range like a couple drives after that, and he got a massive sack to knock them out of field goal range. The defense is absolutely not the problem. I think overall, I mean, we came out of the Arkansas game having a lot of question marks, specifically in the secondary about the defense. But at the end of the day, they still only gave up 19 in that game. I mean, look at the stats on the season for the defense, man. The most they've given up is against Arkansas, 19 points. Are you kidding me? And
who has a decent offense, by the way? I mean, with Bobby Petrino, I mean,
exactly. And dude, if I told you going into the season, our defense was only giving up 19 through 6 weeks, oh, you're like, dude, we're number one in the country. We're running to a national championship at 6-0 because the offense is going to cook. The offense is going to cook. No. Nope. Offense has been historically bad. Worse. It's insane to think how Heupel transformed the offense over the first couple years being here, and now where we're at. It's worse than it's been perhaps ever through the last 2 games. I mean, the last 2 games, the offense performance, dude. Again, back to back. Last week at halftime, Arkansas 3-0 going into half. This week 3-0 going into half. How do you go back to back weeks not giving or not scoring on offense? Not a point. You didn't score a point on offense. And, dude, I'm here to tell you, Arkansas and Florida, they're not the '85 Bears reincarnated, bro. They ain't trotting out the 2000 Ravens. They ain't. I mean, those are not good defenses. Florida has been torched by most teams they've played. So that's a problem. I mean, that's a real issue. And yeah, we're like I said, we're extremely. Dude, when we won in overtime, I was like, yes, let's go. F Florida, we beat Florida. I'm happy to win. But we coming into the season, and especially 4 games into the season, we had different expectations for the football team, and the expectation was to make the postseason. And now I think a lot of fans are not only thinking we're not going to make the postseason, but we're thinking it's not. There's not even. It's really not a possibility at this point. It's like a 20% possibility, maybe. If the FPI has us at a 52%, I think the fan base is probably around 10 to 20% right now for this team making the postseason with how bad the offense has been. It was unreal, dude. I mean, first drive of the game, we're driving down. It's looking good. We're moving the ball. And then Nico just fumbles. And it's like, okay, that's not great. And just throughout the whole, I mean, listen, there's blame to go around on the offense, but I think you can really pin it on 2 positions on the offensive line and the most important position on the team, which is quarterback. The quarterback was terrible. And listen, I see a lot of Vols fans defending Nico, saying how bad the O-line was, which, trust me, the O-line was terrible, specifically Lance Hurd, and I'll get into him later. But we'll talk about Nico right now. Nico has not been good since, listen, I don't know if a lot of people that will listen to this podcast know what PFF is. I believe in PFF. PFF grades every play from every game in NFL and college football. And Nico has not graded well since UT Chattanooga, people. Do not look at the 52-10 or whatever we did to NC State and think Nico played well. He did not play well in that game, okay? He did not play well at Oklahoma. He was horrendous last week against Arkansas, and he played maybe his worst game of his collegiate career yesterday against the Gators at home. So there's no road excuse. There's no excuse, we were on the road, and he's a young player on the road. No, Florida doesn't have a good defense. He was at home. And the rest, outside of the tackles, outside of Lance Hurd and John Campbell, who should both be benched, I'm not trying to be funny, that at this point in time, those players are hurting the team, and I believe there's better players on the roster. And I actually have proof of that. Okay, there's actually better players on the roster currently than those two players. But outside of those tackles, the rest of the offense was fine. It was fine. Yeah. There was multiple plays in that game, dude, where we had Squirrel White down the field. We had Chaz Nimrod down the field. Nico overthrows him. He gets a clean pocket and he overthrows him. It's like, dude, I can look past some of the holding the ball too long. Okay, maybe that's a youth thing. Maybe it's he's just young. He's growing pains. Whatever. He's just developing. If you're going to do that on a down-to-down basis, you're going to hold the ball too long. You're not going to process well. At least when there's a big play opportunity to be made, make the play. And he didn't yesterday. He did nothing special yesterday. And he did nothing but hurt this team. And you can keep making excuses for the guy. And, Blake was just reading me a comment before we went live how people are still saying, oh, he's young. He's a redshirt freshman. Have you watched Go watch Texas. Go watch Arch Manning play. He didn't play yesterday, okay, and they're not going to need him the rest of the season. But watch Arch Manning play, okay? I'm sick of hearing about how he's a redshirt freshman. Give him time. Give him time.
We ain't got time.
He's draft eligible next season. What are we talking about? Give him time. Like, dude, this is not the NFL. This is not you get drafted on a rookie contract and you have 4 to 5 years to figure it out. This is college football, man. The expectations are different for young players in college football. All over the country, you're hearing about freshmen and redshirt freshmen making plays.
Alabama has a 17-year-old wide receiver who is like their standout star. Are you kidding me? I mean, like, and here's the deal. We were saying before that, yes, redshirt freshman, he is still young. There's room to grow, but there's a difference between room to grow and showing what he's been showing the past few games, which is just bad. He's not been making redshirt freshman mistakes. He's playing poorly.
And he's not making the plays that people were excited about, man. Listen, you can keep showing me the deep post to Dante Thornton against NC State. You can keep showing me these plays. Dude, every solid quarterback in college football history or NFL history, you can put together a highlight film and it looks good. It's about consistency, man. The greats are... Go look at Hendon Hooker. And I feel like I owe Hendon Hooker an apology because I kept saying on the show how Nico has a higher ceiling. And that maybe could still be true. But I already feel like I took advantage of... And took for granted, rather, what Hendon did. What made Hendon so good is the down-to-down consistency. It's when we need a play on 3rd and 5, he makes the play. He either scrambles out and runs for the first down, or he hits a guy over the middle of the field. He makes the play. Or when Heupel schemes somebody up open, and he hit that consistently. And Nico is not hitting throws consistently. And what I thought was his strength, which I was so excited about in the Iowa game and looking at UT Chattanooga, was his pocket presence. Okay, his feel for the pocket. It's completely dead. Go watch the last 2 games, dude. Even when he gets a clean pocket, which is rare because he has Lance Hurd, and listen, man, Lance Hurd, he ain't ready. You gotta bench him. He's horrible. He's awful. He's awful, and I'll give you. I mean, I'm not just saying that. It's not like there's actual facts to back this up. But even when he gets a clean pocket, dude, he just scrambles to his right or to his left and just bails. He just bails on it, man. And he's not making quick decisions, kind of like you alluded to last week. He's starting to play like Joe Milton, and he's not making a quick decision. He's being very indecisive with the football. and it's not working right now. So I mean,
Well,
listen,
sorry. I mean, before we get too far past Hendon Hooker, put it this way. Your point about Hendon and the consistency was, you know, we don't win 2022 Alabama without Hendon Hooker and his consistency and his ability to make plays when we needed him to make plays because he was consistent. Nico is nowhere now. Yes, I get it. Hendon Hooker was a fifth year senior or whatever, sixth year, whatever. Okay, he was mature. I get it, but Hendon, or I'm sorry, Nico is nowhere near being able to make those kind of play. I mean, we but I don't want to get into Alabama yet, but we better pray that the defense comes to play and that Dylan Sampson keeps carrying this offense because Nico is not going to be consistent enough to make those plays that Hendon made when we needed them against Alabama in 2022.
oh, no question, dude. He has a lot improving to do. I mean, we didn't score until 3 minutes left in the third quarter in that football game. And what killed me about that, dude, is that it looked so easy on that drive. It's like, okay, when you have usually when you have an offense that's struggling and they score and they finally get over the hump and score a touchdown, it's usually like a struggle. Like the defense puts them in a good position, and it's just like, man, every yard is tough. Dude, we went down and scored like just with ease, and that kills me. If you have a drive like that in a game with 3 minutes left in the third quarter was when we scored our first touchdown. Why couldn't you replicate that in the first half? Like, why couldn't we make that happen in the first half?
Mm-hmm.
And I think the answer is the quarterback, man. I mean, I really do. And the tackles. Listen, that's the two. Very, by the way, very important positions. Okay, I mean,
Yeah.
you have the quarterback, which is the most important position in sports, and then you have the tackles, which are the most important position on the O line. And if the O line's broken, the offense is broken. So it's not good. I mean, they're gonna have to get better, but I just don't get it. I don't get how you can have a drive like that and just look and score with ease, but the rest of the game it's such a struggle. It's such a struggle. Just to put some stats on Nico, and I mentioned PFF earlier. I have some stats from PFF. And again, they grade every play from every game. He has a 70.9 passing grade right now, which wouldn't be terrible if it didn't rank 40th out of 53rd for Power 5 quarterbacks. 40th, and that's all Power 5 quarterbacks, people, with a minimum drop back percentage of 50%. So that's just to take out dudes with low samples. 40th out of 53rd in passing grade in the Power 5. And the Power 5 also includes the Pac 12 and their two members, whatever, it doesn't matter. His 62 offensive grade, he has a 62 offensive grade, which encompasses everything on offense, like his fumbles and everything. Dude, this is bad. I mean, this is bad. Yeah, he ranks 50th out of 53. 50th. He's literally one of the worst quarterbacks in the country right now through the first 6 games of the season. That's second to last in the SEC. That's only behind Lenore Sellers for South Carolina. So what that tells me, man, when you have a quarterback playing that poor, it tells me that you could have pretty much any other quarterback in the SEC on this football team, and you're 6-0, and your offense is you probably blew Florida out because our defense, dude, and I'm gonna get into them, and that's the only reason I have any damn hope left for this season. But dude, we're talking about not only would we be 6-0 right now with pretty much any other quarterback, pretty much any other, okay. Not only would we be 6-0, but we would have blown every team out. Our defense is historically good, man. Like, for this team in particular, for Tennessee in particular, this is the best defense we've had in over 20 years. And it's being completely wasted because our offense is completely incompetent right now. And sure, there's blame to go around, but because people are going to blame coaching and people are going to blame the line. I'm here to tell you, it starts at the quarterback position. Again, it's the most important position in sports. And if you don't have a good quarterback, or at least a quarterback that's not going to screw it up, you're not going to do anything. You're not going to win anything.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, the stats don't lie, right? We've said before on this podcast, the numbers don't lie. And I started to see it, after a little bit after NC State, it kind of crept in my. I'll be honest with you. I know this is going to sound like so a little bit of retconning, like it's going to sound like BS. But I always had ever since I kind of heard Nico kind of talk and how kind of soft spoken he was and kind of how just the way he carries himself. I always wondered. I was like, people keep saying that he's like some great leader. I questioned it. I was like, all right, really? I'm gonna trust you, but like I don't see that from him. And and then it really started to pop up again after NC State, after Oklahoma, and then Arkansas. It's like it's very clear to me that he struggles with decisiveness. He struggles with confidence. And he's clearly lacking in leader. I mean, Dylan Sampson is very clearly not only statistically the leader, but also he is morale wise, he's very obviously the leader. I mean, you just look at social media, you look at things that we see from the team. Dylan Sampson's the one that is hyping everyone up, and so. And then again, you just laid out the numbers for us. I didn't know that. The fact that he ranks so low is honestly, it's like I don't want to dwell on it too much because then I'm going to think about the fact that this kid is getting paid millions of dollars and he's just
I'll tee you up
bed.
for that. I got another guy who's getting paid a lot of money that sucks right now.
Yeah, Lance Hurd. You going to talk about him?
Yeah, I mean. Listen, because you talk about the NIL stuff, and I think it's relevant. I do, and I think you're good to talk about it because you've been talking about that for a while. But Lance Hurd is listen. I talk about how bad Nico is. Lance Hurd shouldn't play. If Heupel doesn't feel like this team can compete for a championship this year, then he probably should still be playing Nico. And I understand why Nico's still playing. And I'm not going to call for Nico's benching because if you're planning on doing something next year, which I think is a mistake because our defense isn't going to be as good as next year, whereas it is this year. But if that's the plan, that's fair. Keep playing Nico. I understand that completely. Lance Hurd should be benched. He is a liability. He is breaking the offense right now. He has a 48.8 grade with PFF right now, which would be out of the 500 or so guards, tackles, and centers, that would be bottom 25, I believe, in PFF grade in the entire Power 5. That's awful. I mean, I don't know. I don't even know how else to put it. And that's the thing. People see it too. That like people see it on the TV broadcast, which is hard to do. It's hard to evaluate O-line play without the all 22 tape. But there are plays that Lance Hurd has on tape right now. He looks like he's not even trying, dude. He looks like he is not even there to play football. He's there, and this is kind of where the NIL stuff comes into play. Okay, and there was always going to be unintended consequences with the NIL era and specifically how it's implemented. I think Nico is trying, so I don't think that's his problem. I think right now he's just not a very good football player. Lance Hurd, it could very well be his problem. He is one of probably the highest paid players on this team. From LSU, he was a very highly ranked recruit, and he left LSU to come play, and he left LSU for money, and we paid him a lot of money. Now I don't know exactly how much we're paying him. I heard someone say $750,000. I don't know if that's true or not. I didn't confirm that, and I don't even know if we can really confirm how much money he's making. But it's concerning when two of your highest paid players are the ones causing a lot of the issues. And it's like it's kind of hard to motivate a 19 or 20-year-old to try their hardest in the weight room, to try their hardest in the film room, to perfect their craft when you're paying them that kind of money. Now, I'll just speak for myself. Now, maybe Lance Hurd's cut different, and maybe he's trying his hardest right now. It doesn't look like it, but I'll speak for myself. If you gave me $750,000 just one time as a 19-year-old or a 20-year-old, that's it for me. I'm trying to retire off that money, bro. I'm trying to be done and just hang it up. And you can't tell me it doesn't seem like that might be happening right now, specifically with Lance Hurd. I think Nico's problems are different. I do, but Lance Hurd in particular, it looks like it's a effort issue, and he's out of shape. And there is a player, particularly named Dane Davis, on the team who is better, so he should play. If it's a development issue for Lance Hurd, then let him develop. Let him develop. That's fine. But he's not good enough to play. He's part of the reason your redshirt freshman quarterback is playing like crap. So you
Lance Hurd is a sophomore, or he's a junior this year?
He is a sophomore.
Sophomore.
He is a sophomore. And again, he was one of the highest. I think he was the highest ranked recruit in that 2023 class.
Yeah.
And
he was the top guy in the transfer portal, wasn't he? Before he transferred to us, I believe.
One of the top guys, sure. At least.
Yeah, one. Here, okay. So you've been you've laid out the stats for us. You've laid out a beautifully crafted argument regarding the offense and regarding Nico. Thank you for teaming me up. Let me get on my soapbox real quick. And this is going to be a boomer soapbox, okay? So there's going to be some people who might disagree with this. That's fine. Here's the deal. What makes it even more difficult of a pill for me to swallow with Lance Hurd is that he came from the transfer portal. And this is why, because to me, the combination of the transfer portal and the NIL has fundamentally changed college football. It's no longer about tradition and prestige and the love of the game and everything as to why I loved college football and I'm not really interested in the NFL because there's so much more passion to me and tradition in college football. That's why I love it. And you're 100% right. Like, especially as a 19-year-old kid, if you get paid, big chunks of money, $1 million, and it's like, and you're getting, and here's the deal. I talk about this a lot. What people don't realize, I've worked in financial aid, university financial aid. Football players were getting paid essentially prior to NIL. They were getting free tuition, they were getting free housing, free meals, all that good stuff, but they also got what's called their full cost of attendance, which includes personal living expenses. So they were getting money. They were just fine. Let me just put it that way. They were just fine. Okay. Now, from an individual standpoint, it's like, yeah, in this country with our liberties and our freedom, you probably shouldn't be able to prevent someone from profiting off their own name, image, and likeness. Okay, tracking. Got it. Here's the deal. You're exactly right. You hit the nail on the head. A 19-year-old kid, you give him $1 million. What motivation does he have to keep it? Because if it's any normal 19-year-old kid that's got suddenly got $1 million and doesn't have to worry about, and trust me, they are still kids, right? Because they should be grown men, but mentally they're still kids because they don't have to worry about where they're living. They don't have to pay rent. They don't have to, worry about, anything else. Everything is taken care of for them as student athletes at the University of Tennessee. Everything is, like they don't have they don't have to worry about adult responsibilities. And so in a lot of ways, almost even more so than NFL players, even though they're not getting paid as much, in a lot of ways, they are living a better life, an easier life than just about anyone, frankly, at the end of the day. And so there's no motivation. There's no motivation to go out and play your heart out to get to the NFL, because if you're already making big money, then why, and especially if you don't have to, in the NFL, if you're not trying, you're going to get cut. I mean, period. But in college football, it's like, man, we need them. Like, there's, we paid them the money. We don't get, like it's still like very much, it's very pro. It's very, very pro student athlete at this point. And and the transfer portal. I mentioned that. This is the last thing I'll say. That's the combination of NIL and the transfer portal with Lance Hurd is what ticks me off the most, because this essentially, the transfer portal solidifies that there's no loyalty in college football. There's no, going to a school to uphold the tradition and to uphold, and to play for the love of the game. It's just like, oh, I'm not getting what I want, or I can get more money somewhere else. I'm gonna hit the transfer portal. I'm gonna go over here. I'm gonna get paid, and then I'm not even gonna try. So, I mean, shoot, you know what? Fine, University of Tennessee or Spire Sports or whatever NIL collective dropped that money on Lance Hurd. Okay, I guess we're gonna have to eat that cost and let his ass warm the bench.
I
But
agree, dude.
get Dane Davis in, and I'm tired of losing football games.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I mean, listen, Dane Davis is a great guy too. I mean, if you're looking at the broadcast, they're talking about the stuff Dane Davis is doing for his community and stuff. It's like Dane Davis is the kind of guy that you want on the team. He's the kind of guy that's there because he's not going to play in the NFL, man. He doesn't have the measurables to play in the NFL, but he wants to be there. So put in somebody that wants to be there, man. Put in somebody that is actually I mean, you got to put in someone who cares, because at this point Lance Hurd ain't even playing like a damn 2-star, bro. He's playing like an unranked recruit who should have never been in college football. I mean, he's awful. And I'm like, it's not even, I'm not even trying to hate on the kid. I mean, maybe he's going to get better, but he's not good right now. So you have to bench him. You have to not play him. And I don't care what kind of money you spend on him, because you got plenty of money. You got plenty of money.
Because at this point, you've paid that money to now actively
Be
hurt your
worse.
chances of winning football games. Exactly. So, like, the money argument is like, it's not even there, right? It's like, okay, you spent the money regardless, but if he's not playing well, there's the fact that you spent a lot of money on him's not going to change that,
Exactly, dude. I mean, and we won't keep harping on it, but I mean, to me, I just don't see any reason not to make the change at this point. But to shout out some of the players that play well, pretty much everybody except for the tackles and the quarterback, man. I mean, the defense was phenomenal this game, and I'm really happy with the performance on the season, obviously. James Pierce has became the player that we thought he was going to be, and Jermod McCoy continues to be probably the best player on the team. Him, Dylan Sampson, and James Pierce, man, they're fun to watch, dude. They're the kind of dudes that you see the effort. You see that they want to be there. They are trying every down, and it's refreshing to see that in comparison to other players. But yeah, man, and the secondary as a whole played pretty well. I mean, there was still some wide open guys in the middle of the field that was frustrating at times, but overall they played really well. Now, huge loss on the season. I don't know if you saw Keenan Peely probably out for the
Yeah.
year. Super
That's rough.
super rough. Probably one of the biggest losses on defense we could have had, outside of maybe Pierce and Jermon McCoy. But it's incredibly disappointing because, I mean, from an intangible perspective, that's the thing about the middle linebacker is that, yeah, he's great in the run. He wasn't the best in the pass, but it's the intangibles you're missing too. It's the leader on the defense. It's the guy that gets the calls in. So it's extremely disappointing. He's probably played his last snap for Tennessee, and I could kind of tell in Heupel's press conference. If you listen to Heupel's press conference, they asked him about Keenan Peely, and he was like, "Oh, no update." But then he went on this like 1 minute diatribe about how he's a great leader, great guy, super. He was basically trying to hype him up for the draft. Essentially, which I think he probably still will have an opportunity in the NFL because of the athletic profile. But unfortunate, man, he had a lot of injury issues. He was having a great season, and another guy who gave his all. He really did give his all this year. So we're gonna have to go forward without him. Now his backup, or his partner in crime, I guess, Arian Carter made a great play in the game, had a huge pick in the game.
Yep.
So maybe he can fill that role. We'll see, but just the defense overall, man, has been phenomenal. It's just such a disappointment that the 1 year. I mean, hell, it was the offense was even better under Joe Milton, man. And it's like, which is like, I mean, that's bad. And like at this point, it's like, damn, I miss Joe Milton. And Joe Milton, I love Joe Milton. I always got to preface that, dude. Joe Milton's a great guy. You know,
Cool dude. I
cool.
mean, yeah, like,
Yeah,
got a
but
heck of an arm, but man, he was inaccurate as shit.
exactly, dude. I mean, I love Joe
And
Milton. He's another guy that gave his all, but jeez, dude, the offense was better under him. That's not a good sign, and we're wasting this what I believe is a generational defense, man, for Tennessee standards right now. So it's just incredibly disappointing. Who knows? Maybe the offense will bounce back. We'll get into that in the Alabama preview, but I've just been really impressed. Ricky Gibson made some plays. I had to shout him out. So he made some plays in the secondary. Joshua Joseph continues to be one of the best players on defense. Will Brooks was making some plays. Your boy Will Brooks, the
man,
Casey Clausen
Casey
man
Clausen,
of the
front
year.
runner.
Yeah, the front runner, baby. So, I mean, and again, the defense is the only reason we won this football game. I mean, the defense and Dylan Sampson, dude, was literally the reason we won this ball game. Like how many points they saved from the offense being inept, how many 3-and-outs they had to go right back onto the field after making a stop and then get right back out there and make another stop. I mean, they give us a chance. At least they give us a chance. So, yay! I mean, hopefully the offense can hold up their end of the bargain.
Yeah, and no one would have. I mean, there's no way anyone would have predicted this situation prior to this season. And I think, unfortunately, it does come down to two players, probably in particular, not living up to anywhere near their talent, which is Nico and Lance Hurd. So that's unfortunate that it comes down to a couple guys not even and again maybe one's not even really putting in the effort. Speaking of Dylan Sampson is an absolute unit, and love that
A
guy.
dog.
He's well, and I think we might need to do a new award. We might need to talk about it. We've got the Casey Clausen Award for underappreciated player. We've got the Juwan Jennings Dog Award. We've got the Peyton Manning Offensive Player, the Reggie White Defensive Player. I think we need the Inky Johnson Gives His All for Tennessee Award.
Okay.
And
I'd go
and
for Dylan Sampson 100%.
Dylan Sampson is by far the number one guy giving his all for Tennessee right now. So shout out to him. And you're right about the defense, and I don't think there's anything else that I can add other than yeah, it's just never would have predicted this. And man, I hope something changes, whether it's benching Lance Hurd or whatever the case may be. But the fact of the matter is, bro, and we'll get into this once we get into the Alabama preview. But I'll end by saying this: is that at the end of the day, you've got another level of football coming now with Alabama. You've got Georgia coming in a few weeks, or later on down the road in November. So at the end of the day, we're not going to win those football games if we play against them like we did against Florida. So something's got to change. And I hope that for at the end of the day, and this is the last thing I'll say on my soapbox, going back to what we were talking about with the effort and things like that, it's like, it's one thing to be loyal to a team, or to be loyal to a university, and to be loyal to tradition and things like this. But man, like, at least play for the guys next to you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and you can't even give your all for the guys next to you. If you're not going to do it for the fans, which, by the way, if it weren't for the fans, you wouldn't be getting paid the money you're getting paid, because it wouldn't be as lucrative of a sport as it is. Okay, but let's put all that aside. Put aside the school, the tradition, the love of the game. What about the dudes next to you, man? And I'm still looking after Arkansas. I talked about this. I'm looking for someone to come in and who's going to answer the call and turn around the offense and say, you know what, we got to do better for everyone and for each other. I hope in the next this episode's dropping on Monday. In the next 5 days, I hope that a spark can happen in the locker room that can set the offense on fire like it was
Yeah.
before. We'll see.
Yeah, and that's like the problem, right? It's like these things just don't get fixed overnight.
Yep.
We'll see what kind of changes they make, but it's looking like one of those seasons that we could possibly fall short of the postseason because kind of like in 22, but the exact opposite. One side of the ball is just so horrendous that it's just gonna impact the elite side of the ball. Um, but yeah, man. I mean, just kind of like you're saying, last thing on the Lance Hurd Nico situation, it is a little odd. And it's a small sample size, so I'm not trying to talk for college football as a whole, but it's a bit odd to me how the two 5-star blue chip prospects, the two guys who are probably getting paid more than anyone on the team, or at least up. I mean, Nico's getting paid the most, and Lance Hurd is definitely up there, especially on the offensive side of the ball. It's odd how those are the guys that are struggling the most on the team. And again, I think it's two different situations. I think Nico's just not good at football right now, which sometimes they're not. And I think fans got to understand that. It's like we can keep making excuses for them, but at some point you have to say, okay, this guy is not a good enough football player. He's not a good enough quarterback because right now Nico's not playing good enough. And there's been plenty of guys who have the tools that have good highlight reels, and that's it, man. And hopefully he gets better. But like you said, and listen, Bama's defense ain't great, and again preview show, but so maybe it's a get right game. But we'll see, man. Hopefully this defense can keep playing elite. They literally saved our asses in this game, and at the end of the day, I think we're all happy because we beat the Florida Gators. We beat the Florida Gators, and
we beat Florida, man.
Yeah, exactly.
And
so
we're happy about that. Absolutely, we're definitely, it's better than losing, right? Either I'm in a much worse mood than I already am if we lose, or this episode never happens.
Exactly.
If we lose that game. So
yeah, and
yeah.
we said in the preview show that listen, we'll be happy with the win, but we're looking at the performance. I always say that performance matters, and that's kind of been a theme this season. Is that through 4 games, I thought our performance was so good that we had national championship aspirations. Well, these last 2 games, we're 1-1, and with 1 score loss, that we had an opportunity to win at the end of the football game. And you could look at that of like, oh well, we 1 play away from 2-0, and we're 6-0. To me, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's how you look. Yeah, how you look right now against Florida is going to come back and bite you later on. You might have won in overtime, but it's going to matter at some point. At some point, you're going to run up against a better team, like next week, like in 5 days. You're going to run up against a better team, and it's you're not going to be able to score 0 points in the first half. You're not going to be able to do that and win a football game. So the performance matters, man. So yes, while as I am really happy we beat Florida, because there's been so many times where we don't beat Florida in these kind of games, I'm still concerned about the rest of the season. At the end of the day.
So absolutely. So I mean, we hope this has been it's been an honest episode, right, about the situation. We hope that all of this is different in a couple weeks, and we're back to, where we were supposed to be, where we were. We hope that for sure, but we'll see. We've got Alabama coming next week. At the end of the day, like we said, we're happy that we beat the Gators. It's better than not beating them because they deserve to lose every single game. So I'm glad that we beat them. But real quick, again, another just a shout out to the folks down in Florida. the folks over in North Carolina, here in East Tennessee, down in Georgia, all these places that have been hit by these hurricanes. There's still a lot of people who are struggling mightily. So we pray for you. We hope that you have stayed safe. And continue to stay safe, and we'll continue to pray for a quick recovery for those folks. But yeah, happy we beat the Gators, and we're looking forward to yet another our the rival, coming in next week. So, folks, we appreciate you joining us for this episode. You're watching this on Monday. The preview for the Alabama game will drop on Thursday at 10 a.m. So we will look forward to seeing you there. In the meantime, again, Tennessee Vols beat the Florida Gators 24-17 in overtime. Or I'm sorry, excuse me, 23-17 in overtime. Nice win. But we'll see how the rest of the season goes, and we hope that you continue to join us for the Vol Talk podcast. So we'll talk to y'all soon. Later.
GBO, baby.